Okay, another rainy day, another day to fix this calculator. So, far less chaos here now, everything is coming back together. Last video we had the pinwheel pack in pieces. Got that rebuilt, that was fun. Got it all tightened up to discover I hadn't fixed it. This was still a problem. And the problem was that if you tightened the nut up, it would pinch the this disc here was pinching the ratchet. So as soon as you started to move this, the ratchet would move down, it would not move back up again. And I think possibly this has been bent by over tightening this, some previous engineer. So once I'd figured out what was going on, it was just a matter of filing down the pad on the side of here that holds the ratchet in place. What I actually did is I got my Sharpie out and I painted it all up black, put it together and gave it a wiggle, and I could see on the one side here, I could see where the scratch marks were appearing, where it was trapping, and then obviously on the ratchet I could see the black marks where it was touching. So I actually just used a bit of quite rough sandpaper, and then finished off with a 1000 grit and sanded it down, tried it 2 or 3 times until I got it right. So now I've tightened this up as tight as it needs to be to hold the everything firm here, and this is still working, so that's got that done. Then it's rebuilding the body, which you've got to get this side on first. All the screws are under here and you can't get to them, so you've got to get this on. So once that's on, it's tempting to think that you could then put this crossbar in, the rotor, the bar at the back, and then fit this side. That's a nightmare. You can't do that. There's too many linkages and connections and things in this side here. You've got the release button on the side here, which comes through on this tube to here. That's all got to be lined up. This has to be in the right place. There's a reset bar here. The one that there is the reset bar that comes through, that hooks over a thing here which grabs on this, and you've got the anti-reversing mechanism, which is quite interesting. It's so simple. There's this spring here, which you probably can't see it here. There's a big circular spring and it's very loose on there, and then there's this row of teeth. If you look at it from underneath here, let's see, there it is. So you'll see this thing here, where is it, that thing there, flopping around as I start moving this. See it going backwards and forwards like that. See? So if I start my turn this way, eventually it falls out of that gap between the teeth. There we go, that's where they end and the teeth start. So now I'll be unable to turn it backwards because it's jamming there. So that stops you from changing direction halfway through. Obviously it works the same the other way. And the spring here has a loop that connects to the back of that, so that as this turns, the spring has got enough friction. We can see as I move the spring, where are we? There you go. So as I move this spring around at the top here, it moves that left and right there. So that's all got to be lined up and connected. So what I found the easy way was just to take this whole end piece here, turn it over onto its side, trapped it between my knees, and then just built all of this first. It's got all of this in, all the linkages, the springs, the connectors, all of this, everything that needed building in there was done first, and then put it on its side and slide it into here. And yeah, you've still got lots of fiddling to get all of these in the right place. but it's much easier that way. There was no way of doing it the other way. So that's done that. The next step is to get that on. Obviously there's a lot of linkages in there as well, because we've got to pass information back from this into the body at times. So this is the main input for the counter, this cog here. This cog here, if it's in focus, connects to the output of the reversing mechanism. So this has to go on first unusually, and then the side. I'll show you why in a mo. So that's got to be in the right place. Other things that have got to be right. This is the reset mechanism for the auto reverse. That's got to be in the up position before you start. This is the I'm getting in the light, aren't I? Let's do it this way. This way. Okay. So this here is the reset mechanism. When you pull the handle here to reset the numbers, this will go down to prepare the body of the calculator for the reset. The next one along here, I'm not 100% sure, but I think this has got something to do with performing a reset when you activate the feedback mechanism, which is this. Next one along here is connected up to the output from here. As we saw in another video, as each of these numbers passes from 9 to 0, it will increment the following, or the next digit, by 1. So what happens when this one goes from 9 to 0? There's nothing to increment, you've overflowed, and it warns you of the overflow by ringing a bell, which is at the back. And so therefore the tens carry from the final cog is connected to this, which connects down to this, which actually hits this bottom piece here and rings a bell. Very cool. So that's that. What else? I also found when putting it together that this which activates the feedback mechanism to feedback your results into the input register, I actually found that you want to start with that. Just manually pop it into the up position. There's a button on the front to pop it down again, but just lift that up and set it first. So yeah, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things here that you've got to manage as it goes back together, and they all connect inside. I'll show you that too. So the reset mechanism, let's see if we can do it like this. The reset mechanism connects to this top one here. There we go. And you can see what that's doing is, if you can see there, it's, oh, let's come around the back. There you go. You can see it locks the pinwheel rotor, won't allow it to turn while you're doing a reset. Safety feature. And the other thing it does, and that's what I was saying with this hook on this bottom part here, connected to the same crossbar, it will extend that pin here. We can see a pin sticking out. Where is it? There you go. You should see it just here, sticking out when I do the reset. Oh, oops, wrong one. There we go. And what that does is that stops the carriage from moving while you're doing the reset. So yeah, you can see as that goes up and down, it does various things. So that's the bell and the reset, and as I say, this one is actually controlled. Alright, we have this button here, and that goes down the side here and engages with that piece there. Oh, you can't really see him. That engages with that piece there, so as you can see, as it presses it down, it lifts. As it goes down here, it lifts here, and that activates the feedback. Once you've got all this in, you need to get that on, even if it's just temporarily. Get this side on temporarily, hold it with a screw, or even just get this built first and get it done, because if you don't, when you're trying to fit the slide, this is just going to pop straight out again because there's nothing holding it in at this end. And then obviously this is the spring, which helps to control the movement of the slide, the carriage. So that's all got to be done. I find getting it together, this has to be done last. Just get this left hand side in first, make sure that this bit here clears this here, make sure that this forked piece is engaged properly with its control. This piece here confuses me. As I say, I'm not entirely sure of its function, but you then need to get this above that there thing, so it actually sits on top of this reset thing. The bell just looks after itself, don't need to think about that. Get it lined as best you can, and then hit the button on the front to drop these cogs down, and then try and get it in, because that way you're going to end up with these cogs, this mechanism, it sort of needs to be above this obviously, and if it's not above it then it jams. And yeah, it takes 3 or 4 goes to get everything lined up, and I find it's impossible without one of these sort of dentist tool type things, because you can get in there and you can lift this up and lift that up, and but yeah, so yeah, it does take a good few goes to get it in, but it's not that bad once you figured it out. Once that's done, then it's the auto reversing mechanism, and the reason that has to go on last, or second last really, is because of this here. This is attached to the body of the machine right down here. You can see it there, look, with those 2 screws. And then the auto reversing mechanism lives here, so those 2 screw holes are not accessible once you've got the reversing mechanism on. So you've got to do that second. And that's all pretty simple, the reversing thing, once you've got all of it loosened up. It's quite clever. It uses this is one of my favourite things. This is attached to the rotating shaft, so I'm blinding you with reflection, aren't I? Let's do it here. And obviously, if you can imagine, a pin would push this side down but get hooked by that side, so as this turns the pin would be moved that way. But if it's going in the opposite direction, the pin would push this side down and be hooked by that side, so the pin would be pushed that way as it turns. And the pin in question is this one here, this pin here. So therefore, if you turn it one way, it catches the pin, rocks it that way, that pin then retracts into the space here, and the main rotor can continue to turn. And obviously in the opposite direction, the same thing, it grabs hold of the pin, turns it this way, the pin falls up into here, gets out the way, that continues to turn, and then you're setting, I mean, this is the main start wheel which sits on the end of here, and then like that, and then that obviously goes there, so depending on which way it rocks, depending on which way that rocks, it's going to be connected either to the 3 teeth or the 2 teeth, and that sets the direction of the output to always be the same. And there, and this cool bit here actually sits on there underneath the main wheel. It sits on there. I can't do it one-handed in order to do it. And then obviously that's the reset. It pushes the pin out again so that it can move, and then down here you see the V-shape part there, that grabs hold of this peg on the back of here and returns it back to its neutral position. So that's got to go on. That's all pretty simple stuff though. Oops. That goes on there like that, goes on there, then this goes on, gosh. So then final step for that, in here somewhere, here we go. Once you've got that on, this is held on in 3 places. It's held on with this screw here. It actually sits between the washer and the thing, so you tighten the screw up and it doesn't pinch onto it. It allows it to slide. Same with this one here at the top. And then the last one is this here, this here cog, which goes on that post there, which is the final output. And then there's a split, thing, one of these things, I've forgotten what they're called, a clip that goes over the end of there, and that holds all that together. And then that feeds this, and obviously when that turns, because it's on a square shaft, it turns this cog, which turns all of this gubbins here. So yeah, that's got to be done. And then the final part of the assembly is to get the back on with the input register. You've got to get all the zeros lined up, make sure the reset's in the right place, and then drop that down in the back there. That's quite a straightforward thing. This is something I forgot to do the other day. I should have actually done it while I had it apart. Dropping things, look. These go here like this, and obviously the little wheels go on the end. These always jam up. They are always rock solid. It takes a lot of effort to get them off, but to get them off, give them a good clean, a little bit of 1000 grit on the shafts, some oil, and they spin beautifully again. And that's obviously what the carriage rides left and right on. Of course, the other thing when getting the carriage on is don't forget your spring. There are 2 ways of doing the spring. I don't think one is any easier than the other. You can either just hook it up onto its post, which is that one there, the smaller of the 2. Hook it up onto its post at this position before, this position here, so you get it hooked up, and then whilst holding the spring with one hand, get everything in. It's a bit of a pain to make sure the spring doesn't pop off at either end while you're doing that. It's not easy. Of course, the other way is just to not do the spring until later, and then you just unscrew these 3 screws on the bottom here, take this plate off. Much easier to set the spring, but then you've got to make sure when you put the plate back on that you remember to trap this here. If you put it together while that is like that, it's just not going to work. If you put it together like that, it's just not going to work. You've got to make sure that that is underneath here when you put that back on. So there's a little bit of trickery with that. So yeah, it might actually be a little bit easier to do it that way. It's so hard getting this on, to add the complication of trying to keep the spring in tension and not drop off the peg and everything else. Might be easier just to do the spring through the plate when you're finished. I think that's what I'm going to do. So order of events, really, it's just start here. I've got to get this is the mechanism for the feedback, as I was saying. This latch holds on to this to stop it from moving, and then you can see in here when you do a reset, you see that focus in there. Yeah, there you go. When you do the reset, you can see that lug goes round and round, and as it gets to this position, it should push this piece to one side, which releases this button to then depress down and hit that lug there, which lifts this, which lifts that, it's actually quite a lot going on when you do that feedback. You've got your numbers in here, so your cogs pop up, so you hit this to do the reset. It goes through here, along here, through these cogs to these cogs, which connects to the teeth on the number wheels on the front, which pulls them down, which then connects to these teeth on the at the back, which then sets the number up here and also sets the number in here. So it's all the way through the machine. So yeah. So yeah, order of events, get the reset, the recall, you know, whatever it's called, get that all in and on and done. Oh yeah, word to the wise, you have to fit this plate, this piece of body, this has to be on here before you put this side plate onto the base. Because if you, once this side piece is on the base, there's no way of getting this past the lever here. You can see it's jammed on. So don't be like me, don't put it on and then realize you haven't put this on and you can't, and have to take it off and put it on and take it off and put it on. Put this on first. Then fit this, then fit this, then fit this, and that's pretty much it, job done. Then it's just a matter of cleaning the case and putting that on, and we will be finished. So yeah, I think that covers everything. Obviously there's a few more bits and pieces that I still have to attach. This is just, I think this is just to keep the muck out. It sits on the top there and, you know, goes a bit like that, and then this goes on here. I think that's just cosmetics. It sort of gives you that nice demarcation of the numbers. So yeah, a little bit of reassembly. And that's it, that's today's update. So, still raining? Yeah, still raining. Time for a coffee, then we'll get on with it.